Okay, so it is challenge extra stream number 4. So I think I'll be drawing a bit while people connect, and then maybe half an hour start going through the talk with the entries. So just gonna hang out for a bit. Yeah. Look at this handsome guy. Random guy with a sword. Yeah, so I'm gonna be sketching, like I said, I'm gonna be sketching a bit. Wait for people to connect. That's gonna be like for half an hour or something, and to see that everybody's here that needs to be here. And then I'm gonna call a passenger. We're gonna talk about the challenge entries, where do some painovers and general feedback. And when all the entries are done, this time around, it wasn't too many. It was maybe 4 or 5, 6, I think, in total. And when that's done, I think we should all just kind of hang out on the Discord Google Hangout channel, so anyone can free to join. We can talk some shit, you know, hang out, draw something, and just have it streaming. I hope that I know how to do that. I'll figure it out. Probably need to add some sort of new screen share device on the OBS, but we'll see how that goes. I should have really set that up, but I didn't. Hey, Seart and Atsuki. Hello, hello. Good evening, passenger. Yeah, so I'm just gonna be sketching, like I said, a bit. See how many turns up. And in about half an hour, start to go through the challenge. Hey, Rogue 13 Pol account. Thanks for the host. Very kind of you. Hey, Kuru. How's it going? So for this sketch, I'm just gonna, I play with, I usually do this now and now and then. Take someone just standing, and then just use the post so I don't to save time, so I can just play around with shapes and see what comes out. I find it fun. Gives you variety in poses as well. Hey, TMH Lava. Thanks for the host. Hey, Lrib. How's it going? I think this is challenge number 4, isn't it? Or maybe? Yes, number 4. Breaking the gate. Kuru, the plans are I'm gonna be sketching a bit. Then after like half an hour, we're gonna do the challenge. Passenger is still eating. Not everyone has connected. We're gonna do some painovers and feedback and just general kind of thoughts. And then when that's done, not try to spend too much time on it. When that's done, maybe go to a Google Hangout, the Discord Hangout, and just start streaming the Hangout for those who want to be live. Can talk some shit and share the screen of what we're doing. To show internet what we can do. I think that would be fun. Or if no one wants to do a hangout, everyone is shy. I can just keep on doing like normal chat here on the Twitch, and I'll be just sharing my screen. But, we'll see how it goes. Ginger. Hey, Thomas Shay, or Thomas Hey. Glad that you could make it. Welcome, welcome. Kuru, yeah, that's too bad. That's too bad. But maybe next time you can set it up so that you are able to. But I think it will be fun. It will be cool to. I've been streaming. I've been hanging out on the Discord Hangout channel all day today. It was good fun with Lrib and Passenger and Seart and Sofa Strangler. What a nickname. Always makes me giggle a bit. Hey, Seart. Yeah, it's a little bit Dead Spacey, but I'm gonna try not to have it Dead Spacey. But it's definitely that kind of vibe. I wanted to start doing some sci-fi. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna have time to do the ArtStation, be finished with the ArtStation challenge. No matter how much I would love to be able to finish it, I'm not gonna have time. So I might as well pause that, kind of refresh my eyes a bit by not touching them, and then finishing those designs at a later stage. No need to rush them because I'm not gonna have time to finish them. Thomas, hey, that's funny. That's cool. Yeah, you recognize the regulars by YouTube. That's really that's quite something. Yeah, it's too bad, Kuru. If you only had checked it, I spent almost all day, um, like doing some freelance and um, talking. We looked at when we were starting out, like what first Wacom paintings and so on. It was good. It was a refresher to see to see where we started from. And Lrib showed a year-old paintings, and he's definitely improved a lot in a year, which is really cool to see. You know, it's an easy thing to forget about. You know that you're improving when you're just stuck into it and doing the grind. But it's really cool to see. Drinking, yeah, lunch beers. That's good. Yeah, but it's all good. It's all good. Most people's English are good enough. I mean, I'm not a native English. So I'm Swedish, but I try. Yeah, that's another true thing. Passenger, you definitely learn by doing. Hmm. I kind of like the idea of like extended backwards toes and a front toe. That could be a cool design. Kuru, yeah, I mean, it was really cool. Passenger showed his first paintings, and it's interesting to see though that there's always this interest what you like to paint and how you like to paint. I mean, in my ones that I showed, I mean, obviously you can see it's me, but an extremely crude version, technically and artistically. Um, but you can still see the person, in the art. It was It's quite interesting. Like it's somehow like a fingerprint of sorts. You can see the personality come through. Yeah, I feel a bit under the weather, so I don't know how long I will be able to stream today. The kind of my not health really, but energy has been going down steadily throughout the day, and I feel like a little bit like a cold or something, starting to mess with my energy levels. I'm a little bit queasy, and my daughter has a cold, and my son has a cold, so it's about time that I get a cold as well. Yeah, I think now that the spring is coming as well, it's gonna be good. Go out with a sketchbook in the park, have the kids run around, sketch a little bit, have some picnic. I think it's gonna be good. Good old spring and summer. Been missed. I've been missing that for a long time now. I hate this winter. You always get fed up with winter at the end of the winter. When winter comes, you're like super happy and cheerful, and then month 6, you want it to end. Counting the days. I did well, I did this sketch earlier during the hangout, just playing around with sci-fi. It's a fun idea, or a top theme rather. It was a wise decision, Kuru. Go out and get some sunlight. I should have also done that, but I had to do some work. By the way, we are 9 people away from the milestone 1,200 of Ask Me Anything extra stream. You know, if you need a tutorial of something or answer a question, whatever. I'll probably have like an hour or 2 of just an AMA when we hit 1,200. Then I'm going to plan for 1,500, and I think at 1,500 some sort of giveaway I want to do, like come up with some cool giveaway and have some sort of winner of sorts. Not sure yet, but we'll see. Hey Xabi, welcome. Yeah, passenger. I think that would be cool. I think that would be a good idea. So I think I'll wait like 12 more minutes or 10 more minutes, and then we'll start the go through the challenge. Some really cool entries, and Lrib, don't forget to post your final version. To Dennis. passenger. Otherwise, we can't talk about it. And Sofa Strangler too. Yeah, if he's around. I don't see him around, but hopefully he is. Otherwise, it's going to be a lost opportunity to get some feedback. Okay, some bigger shapes there. Let's see. Design challenge. Kuru. Arms. Oh, you posted yours, Lrib, at 7:33. Cool. All right. Nice. An old client of ours came back and said that they're almost done finishing their game and that they want DLC. And they showed screenshots from designs that we had already done that they wanted like skin treatments and so on for. So it was really cool to see. You know, and once concepts in 3D and where they took it. And then now we're gonna have to give them like paint overs. Gonna be cool. Gonna be fun to see where that goes. Now I want to have some sort of sense of secondary motion. I think that would be cool to have some sort of, in a design like this, some sort of animation, some moving parts rather than just static or classic just cloth simulation. I think one part is the heel. The heel idea here is an interesting one, and I think that could be a cool secondary animation of the like hydraulics moving in and out, you know, as if he's running. But that's not advanced enough, I'd say. I want to see some sort of like maybe a robotic arm moving, or the way, I don't know, reloading a gun, or you know, that there is robotics involved rather than just one-dimensional old style, you know, of designing something. It's always in sci-fi, it's very statically designed because they're not going to have the bandwidth or capabilities of making something advanced. I mean, I'd say Deus Ex came the closest so far. You know, some really cool live animations in robotics. Made it look really cool. Not many games do have that kind of. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling. Cool. Cool passenger. Getting it. Point. Yeah, starting to look like Sofa Strangler is not gonna have his work talked about. He has around 5 minutes left. For the sake of fun, let's put a 5-minute timer on, so he can sweat a little bit extra. There we go. 5-minute countdown. The batteries in my mouse is dying. Is that a good sign? Oh, Sofa doesn't have anything. Oh. Not gonna submit it? It was a cool sketch though. That weird samurai monster thing. Yeah, we'll do Dbar's last. That's completely fine. Hey, Mr. Panka. Welcome. Welcome. Good morning. I was gonna say good morning. Talk about machine mind. I wonder with sci-fi, like what is the thing we haven't really seen about sci-fi? I think one guy that does really interesting sci-fi is this guy called Milan. He just started working at 6 More Vodka. Or Milan, I don't know how you say it. It's some tricky name. But he does really cool stuff. Let's see if I can find his art station. You most likely know him. Seen his stuff before. I think he does really his sci-fi is very different, very like organic, but still clearly sci-fi and robotic, but not. Some really cool stuff. Also very kind of graphic design presentation. Yeah, he's really good at it. 6 More Vodka, yeah, it's a great studio name. But yeah, he does interesting things. Very different. Oddman, yeah, definitely. A lot of sci-fi goes that kind of industrial route. It's an interesting thing in like sci-fi and cultural, how things affect you culturally and trends. I think Milan definitely goes his own route when it comes to sci-fi. Some really unique looking designs. My only worry, like for him, is that can he design something other than just his own world? I mean, that's not anything, that's nothing in anything bad, but you know, one would hope that, you know, what would a transformer look in his design sense, but maybe he wouldn't want to do a transformer, you know. Like, I don't know. I mean, he's very good at what he's doing, so it would be interesting to see, like, his take on things, because he's definitely have a unique vision. Keloid was a really cool short. Yeah, Keloid and Aaron Beck. That style has, I'd say, run its course. I'm quite fed up with it. It's not original anymore, and it's just, and everyone is doing that industrial style. Yeah, Sergi Brossa, he's cool. He's they're at the Black, whatever it's called, right? Black Isle? No. Something. All right. Dennis, send me the. Actually, no. I'll jump on the link you sent me earlier so we can talk. Let's start. Let's start this. Go through the challenge. The challenge. And we'll see how these sound levels are. Yeah, Sergey Brossa does really cool stuff. I really like his design sensibilities. Oh yeah. Okay.
Hello, hello. Testing, testing.
Let's see if they hear us and how well we hear. They hear you.
Hey, world, can you hear me?
Hello out there. Is anyone alive?
The man from the cave is back again.
Yeah.
Hello, hello. Can somebody in the chat let us know if you can hear me?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I think it a bit low.
Bit low. Da, 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 da.
Let me. I think I have to increase the volume. Let's see. Window capture maybe.
I put the mic a little bit closer. Maybe that helps a little bit.
But that should be. No.
I'm such a big guy with such a low noise. Something is wrong on the internet. I got the Twitch volume off, so that shouldn't be.
Maybe here there's. No. Oh, sorry guys, that with problems. But there's always problems. Can never be easy. You have to always have a little bit of resistance.
Yeah, it's probably also a good time for me to look into a new microphone. That might be a good idea also.
But I don't think it's that. I think it's this. I don't get it. Oh, maybe. Oh, I'm probably clicking the wrong. Yeah, of course I'm clicking the wrong. So desktop boost. Okay.
Yeah, power that stuff up.
So does it sound now? For everyone.
Testing. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Hey.
Maybe it's too loud. Well, let's see. I think 2 or 3 was too loud last time. So let's go back one. Let's go like that.
It's good now. I read in the chat.
All right, but now I lowered it a little bit. Let's see if I know now how to change it. Thanks Void for B-Boy Void for the follow. Now we're that much less people. Cool. So if you maybe passenger Dennis run through the topic and whatever needs to be run through.
For challenge number 4, we had quite a difficult challenge. I gathered from everybody. A bit of a real challenge, so to say. The topic was the ancient city of Mosul is known for its gigantic and impassable gate. However, the warlord attacking the city today is convinced that the newest member of his army is able to conquer it. So, people were on an assignment to sign an army conquering a big city, basically the big gate of the city of Mosul, and with a very special army member who was going to conquer the big wall.
Exciting. Okay, so let's have a look.
It was a bit difficult challenge this time, I think, because it included more an environment and a character together.
Yeah, I mean you could have interpreted that a little bit as you wanted, but it was also quite specific. Like there's definitely some sort of champion and an army.
Yep.
So this is Eric, his entry.
And with a fellow Dutchman. His surname means beautiful in Dutch.
Fantastic. You're blowing into the microphone quite heavily, by the way.
Oh, I'm too close, too intimate for everybody.
Yes, in my ear. Starting to sweat almost. All right, so this is Eric's. I think it was nice to see his sketches through his process. I think one of the biggest problems here is the amount of white and where he's chosen to put the highlights. I would probably have the strongest points behind, so it feels like they're coming, into darkness, and then have a strong top light on key characters, so that the strongest white is clearer where to look, rather than all over the place. Just so that you kind of focus the light a little bit more. A person that does that really well is, like I wrote on Discord, Adrian Smith. His work is really strong that way in how he focuses the light. So let me try to find a good example.
I really like the imposing feel of the big dude. It's really like the army guys are there, already very imposing and impressive.
Yeah.
And there is this really big dude. Like, I'm gonna mess stuff up.
Yeah. So this is Adrian Smith's work, and we can see, like, with the amount of highlights, where the highlights are the strongest, we can start seeing like how we read through the painting. So first we land on the ground, right, and the sword leading into this guy, and we look at his direction, and we look at him, and we go around like that, and then we read all the characters, and then the more iterations we go around, we see the little details, and we see this little guy underneath with a shield, and it reveals more and more every time you loop around the composition. And I think a problem with Eric's, like with his original values, is that there is no real rhythm. What he's been trying to dictate in the composition is with shapes. And with shapes, we're starting to see the rhythm, like vertical, so we're looking up at the champion. But when it comes to values, we get lost a bit. So what I'm doing now is painting away, first reduced all the white, and now painting back in whites, so that the composition becomes clearer.
Mm-hmm. And you get a more separation also from the foreground and the guy in the background.
Yeah, exactly. And what we could do also, like, depending on which direction he would like to go, but we could make him feel even more towering, but by having him drop off into the background. But that also implies that the front guys are slightly more important at the moment, how they're lit. But for example, as a means of making that work better, is that we could hide the faces a little bit more in a darker values, so that we don't care who they are. They are more like the wall, right? And he is the one who is interesting, and this towering champion.
Kind of breaking away the high contrast and the details a little bit.
Yeah.
Focus more on the mid-ground.
Yeah, and another thing that breaks this painting is the hands. Someone carrying something like that and kind of squeezing the fingers together, they don't hold much weight. Naturally, you separate the fingers the heavier something is, because it's the weight has to be distributed in the hand. And if you carry a big heavy thing and you put your fingers together, the weight is a lot more compact. But if you spread your fingers, you distribute the weight differently, and you can, in theory, carry something heavier.
I got quite a bit of personal experience with that at the moment. I can confirm.
Yeah. So it's important that you pay attention to hands, because they are like the co-stars of the acting. And secondly, the knuckles and fingers, they all have a natural rhythm, like a step ladder almost, or stairs, where the pinky has the smallest step. And you can see it, like, if you close your hand, none of them are like equally high. If they are, the step ladder is on the inside of the hand. But if they're natural, they curl differently. Like, they don't connect equal amount, because that's not the way the hand is set up, and the fingers would clash together if they all moved at the same time. So that's why they move in different ratios, so that we can actually close it without smashing fingers together every time we close the fist. So that's something you got to pay attention to as well in this one. And another thing is how he's carrying. He's tucking the elbows in to his waist, which is more like, I am small and I'm offering something. And if you're
Humble position, basically.
yeah, and if you're big, and especially if you're moving, which is kind of is, you shoot the elbows out, especially if it's something heavy.
Also because you're balancing yourself because of the weight, basically.
Exactly. exactly. So by having an arm coming out, it's going to feel more natural and also a lot more imposing. And same for this side. It's going to feel a lot more natural. And then I linked a thread to a website on the Discord about, I don't remember to whom, but it was about lost and found edges. I think it was to this new user, Nuki, or whatever his name was. What's his name? Let me look up. I want to make sure that I say the right name. Onki. I think I linked to Onki about lost edges and found edges and how that can dictate a rhythm in a painting. So that being said, I would go in and reduce some contrast and let details flow into each other a little bit more at choice places, so that when we look at the painting, we start seeing, starting noticing details more, and letting other details rest that we don't really need to pay attention for. Like I talked about, Adrian Smith's painting. Like, we see details on his shoulder pad and going out to the arm and all the things, but if we look at underneath the elbow and his belt buckle, we don't really see it, but we kind of see it compared to the guy behind his sword, or the other guy's sword. His belt buckle is way more defined. We don't need to see everything equally, but we have to think about where to put details, where to put contrast, so that when we'll flow through the painting, we get a good picture.
It's kind of like, I heard somebody explain one day, it's kind of like a checkerboard where you have all these areas where you have high contrast, low contrast, and bright values and dark values.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll find another good reference that shows this theory on one of the classic paintings. I think this guy taught Rembrandt light, but I'll show you on this painting in particular. Is a really good example of controlling that checkerboard thing that you talked about. Like, if we think about the overall big picture contrast, right? It's light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. You see the pattern repeating, and we read the whole painting sideways, back and forth, primarily, right? We scan it left to right, back and forth like that, and then because there's a lot of vertical lines, we're starting to move up, back and forth, up and down, like all the time, and we see different values, like different groups of values going through, and we all end up here, and then we go back to, and that's like, we could have, if we would increase everything equally, a lot of that would disappear. But what would benefit is the overall, like, checkboard pattern, like the vertical stacking left to right. We will still have that rhythm, but all the subtleties are lost. That makes you go in circle over and over again.
Yeah, it's really smartly done, and also with all the folds and the arms pointing inwards again.
Yeah.
really strong composition that way.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about in Eric's here, is that everything is a little bit too evenly lit. There's none of that like subtle rhythm, that secondary flow as we're going through the painting. We should land at places and pay attention and rest, pay attention and rest and flow through. And a really good way is think about that first read and second read and third read. You know, where should the eye go around? Where is focal points? Um, where should we end up in the end after circling the image? You know, so obviously he has done a triangle, right? And we all look up at this guy. There's lots of vertical lines, but I think um, one risk is that they're all very vertical and they're all very static, and it becomes a little bit too um, too dead.
Could break up the pattern.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm thinking that the front guy, which somehow his expression I really like a lot. It's kind of like it shows fear or something. It came out really well, the front character.
yeah, what I think why the front character works really well is that he shoots the shoulder forward a little bit. There's a slight rotation on the head rather than seeing him straight from the front. That would kill a lot of emotion. Um, and another thing that he should think about is add more details.
Yeah,
Spend.
I was just going to ask, going on that checkerboard thing, would it
Mhm.
maybe in this case be a good idea to light his shoulder pad a little bit, to create another of those light spots again, and
Yeah,
also to emphasize that character a little bit more?
yeah, exactly.
It could then be like the warlord and just have that little bit of more attention than the other guys, basically.
Yeah, but if you think about that Caravaggio painting about the Jesus, I think it is, um, they are all almost all equally dealt with, but in different places and in
In the right
different,
areas.
yeah, in different intensities. So it's all about like zooming out, zooming in, thinking about, okay, where do I want you to look? Okay, so maybe the shoulder pad on the front guy, the rim around is all equally lit. Maybe I can, soften the light a little bit on one corner so that we only look at the top part and not the whole circle around the arm. Maybe it's not needed. Start thinking about tactically rather than everything should be equally lit. Everything needs to be equally defined. There's always a point in a painting where you should start thinking about the end, right? The end goal, where it's okay to sketch up, but then you have to, like I said, start thinking about, okay, I have to start guiding the eye now. I have done the hard work. I've laid down everything. I put the composition, all these things, right? And then you have to start slowly build up towards the finishing moves. And the finishing moves are always the hardest one. How to finish a painting.
That's also why it's really useful to keep sticking to your regular steps, like with first the line work and then the simple block in, basically. Not to have the danger to start detailing and rendering stuff out way too soon, because then you kind of create those attention areas too soon. And maybe it's better than to just take the whole image to a more sketchy phase and start planning those areas.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it depends on your personal uh, what you like to do, right? Maybe not everyone likes to sketch the same way. Not everyone likes start the painting the same way. But what's important is in all is to be aware of your process and practice your process and practice finishing paintings rather than that's just over noodling them and over giving them too much attention, right? Where it's not needed.
I'm thinking that I've been thinking myself quite rigidly, like indeed that you have to have one focal area and that's most detailed, and but you can actually have more in the image, and that's also a good excuse to keep some elements that you really like in the image to really keep them in there. You know, you don't need to just rely on one focal point or whatever. You
Yeah,
can
no.
explode with stuff much more.
Yeah, exactly. But one focal point is easier to manage. And the more focal points you have, the more attuned to what you want you have to be.
Hmm.
You know, you have to think more the more focal points you have. But then that also shows a certain skill level, you know, of how much can you complicate a painting with without reducing the quality of it, you know.
Hmm.
Just because you have a lot of focal points doesn't mean your painting is good.
But
It
if
just,
you have a good focal point and a few of them, that will
yeah,
definitely catch the eye from people looking at portfolios. Like, all
yeah,
right, he knows what he's doing with the image.
yeah, exactly. And usually you experience that by you can stand at a painting and look at it for quite some time and go, oh, look at that thing. I didn't see that first time. And like, oh, I really like the colors. And you just stand there in amazement, moving your eyes around. But what you don't realize, it's mathematically placed light, so you just, you know, enjoy what you're seeing.
Hmm.
And it's a funny thing, this like where to place light so that you just react well to a painting.
It is also one of the most important elements in movies, movie making, right? Where
Mm,
the lighting completely
yeah.
dictates the viewer's eye.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a good thing to look at photos, I mean, movies in an analytical matter. Like, where have they put the light? Not all movies have good light, but a lot of directors, especially specific directors, treat light in their own personal way. And finding your favorite and trying to analyze what they've done is a good first step, I'd say.
Hmm. Oh, I really like how those rim lights bring out that hammer, makes him instantly more imposing that way.
Mm. I was thinking of a circular thing, you know, like help direct the eye around out to the edges and then vertically up and down. Dbar, the Google Hangout will be after the Discord challenge.
It should be working though. The link. Let me check.
Um,
Yep, works. It's probably something on your end, dear boss.
mm. Anyways, I think we shouldn't spend too long on this one. I think the overall idea is communicated and how we could how he can improve it.
Hmm.
Um, and beyond this point would be just more noodling, more carefully placed lights, more details of the correct places. But the general push to the right direction, I'd say, has been made.
Yep, cool stuff.
How
And
was
a
it?
really cool image. It's
Oh, definitely, it's a really nice painting. I was happily surprised when I saw it.
yep, good work.
So,
Quality coming from Holland.
I'm just gonna save it. All right, number two. Dearbird is here, right? We can do Dearbird now. Yeah.
Yep, he's
Okay.
arrived.
So this is Dearbard's wonderful entry. I like it. I think it's a nice touch that he has colored lines. Um, the overall image in as a whole works well. I'd say there's some issues in the painting or drawing or submission uh, that I feel it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Um, so the
Yeah,
biggest, yeah, go
on
ahead.
that, I want to say that I actually was thinking quite the opposite. I was thinking that it is exactly on the brief, basically. And I think also a really original take on it because
Mm,
there is the warlord. and there is this one member of his army. It doesn't need to be a creature; it could also be like a big catapult, or it's
Mm-hmm.
part of his army. And it's a really good idea to take that big gate. Of course, you just smartly fly over it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's in storytelling, it's really original and spot on with the brief in that regard.
Yeah, in that regard, definitely. But I think as like using narrative tools, I think it could be uh, a lot stronger. But what's been placed and the take on the challenge is a really good attempt.
Hmm.
So my biggest problem is the lance is mirroring the oars, uh, and it makes it look like there's two lances. I'm assuming it's like a Don what's his name, Don Coyote,
Don Quixote.
Don Quixote, whatever, um, type character because he has a lance, and I assume it's a helmet. But another thing that is a little bit weird with those two lines going like that, the perspective is also kind of pointing upwards. And if we look at the perspective lines, and I mean here's probably the eye line or eye height, um, we shouldn't see that high dip, or having that dip down towards right. What we probably would have is slightly something more like that. That would make more sense and be placed a little bit more um, correctly in perspective. Well, it's going to be a hack job here. Going to be destroyed. Yeah, so that's the biggest like things that obstruct the drawing or the painting to be what it's supposed to be. Like those are the two biggest issues. That's is a standout. Well, there's a number three as well. Um, but yeah, I have to do some repairing here. Um,
I think what stands out for me a little bit is that the character feels a little bit cropped somehow, where some more space on the right side or perhaps at the bottom could make him um, fit in the image better, kind of like on the rule of thirds or something.
mm,
Um, and I was thinking, yeah, I indeed saw that it was two lances or something.
yeah,
Maybe change the directions of the wings altogether, or have them maybe a little bit wider, so it's a different shape of the width of the lens, basically.
yeah. But one thing that usually happens also with boats and oars is that they skew like that um, when you're not using them. They dip down, and I think by just having that default state in them, having them relaxing down helps the narrative or the kind of explanation that it's oars, right, and not a lance. Um,
And also that the ship is basically still waiting for him and also inactive at this moment. So
exactly. Let's
as
see.
a little addition, you could think of maybe adding a little bit more indication of a city on the top right of the image.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe show some towers or It's a good thing to show what kind of culture it is. If you have spiky towers or round domes or that kind of stuff, it tells you a little bit about the potential city he is going to conquer.
Yeah,
Maybe a good story um, addition.
yeah. There's this whole facing left, facing right, as well as a drawing and where you should be looking. At the moment now, like the classic, let's say, magazine rule is like you follow the eye line of the character, right? The character is looking at the balloon,
Hmm.
and I go, why is he looking at the balloon? Or is he looking up at the city? Then he should have a completely different stance. He should
Hmm.
be
He
like,
would be more with his back towards us and really looking upwards towards
yeah,
us.
exactly. So you could either, not show, not show his face, and like him just kind of having the hair maybe flowing, and we can see him like look to the city, but that removes the connection with the person.
Hmm.
So another solution would be just changing his line of sight so that he's looking at the boat. So now we get it. He's going to the boat. He's not looking at the balloon. Like it's his boat now. That's the goal.
Hmm.
Um,
Just as a little side note, with the previous challenge, this was also a correction
mm,
for one of Dearborn's works, where the man and the woman who were facing each other, basically.
yeah.
So, as an overall tip, maybe I think for Dearbon it would be that eyes are really important.
Mm,
The viewer follows where your character is watching, looking at, basically.
yeah.
So be really decisive about the direction you want your character to look at, and usually pointing at your focal point.
Yeah. And for magazine covers, etc., you're usually looking at you. Um, they make contact with you
Hmm.
so that you buy the magazine. And if you look at magazine covers, and if there's a person not looking out of the magazine, towards you, you kind of go like, wait, what's he looking at? Why is he looking at that magazine over there? I'll take that magazine instead. you know.
Yeah, it's a smart thing to think about.
So that's one thing, like for while line of sight or where they're looking pays off. And that's the same for paintings. Is that you got to have those kind of things in mind. Of also, if someone is looking up at someone else, you're going to follow what is he looking at, and then that person maybe is looking at someone else, and you're following his eyes, and then that third is maybe aiming a bow back to character number one, and all of a sudden you have a triangular composition there across the painting. You can even make it advanced, more advanced, or less advanced, but here is just one person looking at one thing and
And in
having.
this case, you could, for example, maybe have a second character in the boat who
Mm,
again points upwards towards the gate, for example, and you really consciously create that line, flowing line, basically.
So Dbar says he wanted him to make it feel like he's looking at the gates. I get it, but it's a bit hard to make that because he's looking into the image. Then that's the problem, compositional problem, and it's a really hard one to solve in one picture. Someone looking at the gate into the image, but then you need to have more character than one, then, so that you can have him looking at the gate and someone else narrating to the viewer or embellishing the story. Um, so I mean, if you add some more characters, let's say we add another character like preparing the boat.
Yeah, and he's kind of pointing upwards to the gate, like that's where we're going.
Yeah, we could have him as just working, right? So he's looking at the worker fixing the boat, like preparing it or whatever, and then we could have another guy maybe like pointing. or maybe using a what's it called? Not telescope, but binoculars, but those pirate version. That's over here. Not magnifying glass.
I'm at a blank here.
Or something, you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah. So now we have a narrative, right? We have circular, and because we tilted the oars, we also don't have the double lance. And then I think now the painting works a lot better as a whole. One thing also is the line going up like this in the background. I think you're losing opportunity to show height, perhaps. You know, some more context to the location. You know, maybe there's pillars in the background. We see maybe islands, or you know, making it the idea work for you a little bit more. And one other thing I was thinking about is how does he get over? So maybe
Little ladder or
yeah, something just to help. Now obviously that clashes with the oar, but some tactically placed walkway. That's probably not the best place to place it, but
you can actually kind of play with the spokes principle of the clock thing, where the lance is going in that diagonal, and then the wings are going a little bit more upwards, and you're going way more horizontal with the gates. I'm not really explaining it well. There is this, that spoke principle with diagonal lines, that you follow the pattern of a clock, basically. And the lance could be like the first one, and then the wings could be the second. They are more tilted already. Then the gate is almost vertical that
yeah.
way. And you get a very nice spoke
Mm-hmm.
on, with a focus on the character that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think overall the image is cool. There's a good story. I think with these changes, I mean, there's some more changes that he could make. You know, like improve shapes and
Also expanded a little bit horizontally, I believe, just a little bit more to the
a
right
little
side.
bit, a little bit. He's a little bit too close to the edge. Um,
Feels a little bit boxed in for me at the moment.
yeah.
Would have a little bit more space. But I have to say, when I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's a really original idea. Compared to the other ones, I thought that this was the smartest one, I believe. Not a
Yeah, it
big
was
army, no big hero. Just like, hey, wait a minute.
one man army.
Yeah, or the ship being the really smart member of the army. It's yeah, good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool image.
Yeah, so that's the original. Yes. Okay. Hey, Maggie. Magshin. Uh, yeah, spyglass. Thank you. That's
Spyglass, yes.
that's what it's called. Okay, arms, the one and only. Okay, I think again, arms. I think naturally he goes with a very wide palette. I think it in this instance it's not helping him that much. It's too much, like the blue is too far away from the orange, too far away from the purple. They clash a bit. There's less uniformity in the colors.
The contrast between the difference between the different colors is too big.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think an improvement from the previous images from Om is that he is still kind of limiting his palettes and also trying to work with the complementary colors in that way. But they
Mm,
could be closer to each other to unify it more, I think.
yeah, yeah, and another problem is um, that the colors are they don't have complexity to them in that sense that the blue on the rock is the same blue across more or less the whole. I can see there's some shift in there, but it's just blue rock, yellow launch tank thing, red castle.
Each element has its individual color without having a real local color, how it would be in the scene itself.
Yeah, exactly. So a red shirt in sunlight, you know, it has I mean, red light in particular is maybe the worst suggestion. But let's see, red t-shirt, sunny day, probably get some good result. Yeah, there we go. Sorry for the person involved. um, so like we can see the red, right? It goes cooler because of the skylight, light of the color of the sky. Same for the grass. Same for his skin tones. Same for his shorts and pants and socks and so on. The socks obviously has less difference because it's a white color. But a lot of the problems here is that it's just too one-dimensional,
Hmm.
and there's no real color direction because it's the colors are not changing enough in like real world aspects, like warm sunlight in a purple like dawn color mood like it is here. It would the pink or the purple would be very prevalent in like the shadow side, right? They would um, let me try to Google some sort of uh, photo reference. It's hard to explain in just words. Well, that is some crazy. I had no idea that you Googled that and you got some Greek Nazis. Surprises for Google. Don't.
I think, by the way, the reason why this happens is because of his rendering process, where he
Yeah.
focuses on the single elements he's working on too much instead of comparing them to the rest of the scene, basically.
Mm, yeah, definitely. I found one picture, but it's really not a good example. Uh, but if you look at the mountains in the background, I mean, obviously the foreground is black because they're photographing the sky. But I'm quite sure that every object in this setting would be purplish. And the only thing that's being red is the reflective aspects of the sun in the water because it acts like a mirror where most of these things won't have direct sunlight, so they won't be too pink. But they will probably have some pink in there. And the problem here is there's just no correlation between the color of this light versus bounce light from the atmosphere and shadow color. You know, shadow color is the light, the ambient light.
Hmm. So basically, all the elements in the scene would be affected by the skylight or a secondary light source.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the a big problem, and that's um, a problem that happens when I think its Ohm's process is by coloring black and white sketches,
Hmm.
and he applies the colors locally over the black and white, and in that way loses the relationship between the warm light and the cool or in this instance, warm light and cool shadows. And that's always a problem when you color from black and white. And you have to pay more attention to how to get around that and how to unify the colors.
Would maybe be interesting for the next challenge to see how Holmes would do if he started his image straight from color, because I think he's got quite yeah, he knows his way with colors. When you look at the individual pieces of the scene, then they work, you know. And maybe it's a good idea to start from color, just as a practice.
Yeah, and I strongly recommend Ohms to look up color masks or gamut masks, how to have a more unified palette. There's a tendency, his palettes tend to be too broad, and the blues he used in this one kind of clashes with all the other colors in the palette. And there's this really good example I saw on Facebook about a plate with strawberries. That strawberries are obviously red.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
But this text says there's not a single pixel red in this painting of strawberries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just all relative compared to each other and how we perceive the strawberries to be red, just because, you know, how the palette was arranged.
It's probably a mid-gray from the opposite color to create that illusion. Aside from the colors and the more technical stuff, I really have to say that I dig the retro futuristic style he's got going on in this image. Gives me really a 60s vibe or something, which is actually a really cool thing. You know?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we obviously focused on the things that were broken, but like you say, we have to also give attention to what really works. And I think what really works is the composition.
Mm-hmm.
Where the composition fails color-wise is that we don't see coherency in colors and where to look and so on. But like I'm doing now is coloring the rocket flying, the light, the exhaust or whatever it's called, the blast, and by having it so that you can see like, okay, they're going in here now, that one lift off, and that one's already flying. Without those color keys, like hints that we should look that way, we don't see that too clearly. You know, we don't see that the obvious 1, 2, 3 step in the composition. And we could, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, carry on.
And you could even take that one step further by having the same fire already, you know, they've already breached. And we can see that fire in the background.
Style-wise, Holmes, maybe you should look that name up. It reminds me a lot of the work from the comic artist Don Lawrence. We used to have this Storm and 3J comics. He used to be quite well known over here in Holland and England, I believe. It's I'll type it in the chat. Don Lawrence. If you Google that, Holmes, you can really see a lot of sci-fi design in that kind of style. Yes, the same color schemes and those big shaped sci-fi elements and everything. It's really cool.
I think OMS have, like you mentioned earlier, like OMS have really tried to work with the palette, because before his palette was very wide. I think the previous number 3, he managed to do it really well. I think it was small adjustments that was needed just with the palette, and he was quite good. I think this one was a little bit too broad again. He loves his crazy colors. Um, like he loves to take the palette wide. Like for example, the reason why they should be blue, these towers, you can, you can second guess. Like why do they need to be blue? Just so that they act as a complementary color, or they might as well also be red. But they can't be fired because that would clash with the narrative now, which I made.
Then that would mean they were already burning, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the biggest problem I found was it's just like one-dimensional colors, like I mentioned, like blue castle, red castle, blue towers, and not really adhering to the atmosphere or the bounce light of the sky and direct sunlight and so on. But it's I find Ohms has always good story in his submissions. They always have these paintings you can look at over and over many times. Compositionally, they are quite advanced, much like you mentioned. There's more than one focal point, and what happens then when, like I mentioned before on Eric's, that if you have more than one focal point, you really have to no on Dbar's, you really have to pay attention to all these aspects of where do you want the eye to go. Is there enough contrast? Is there enough light? Is the color correct? And if we do the Caravaggio, like black white thing on Ohm's original, the rhythm is kind of there, but it's getting a little bit lost at places. So what I think Caravaggio could, Ohms could do, is go back to his painting and think about, like, where can he put more light? Where can he?
You would really bring out all the individual story elements and bring back all the elements that's not needed. For example, could
Yeah,
be
exactly.
that horn that guy is carrying, or the belly plate of that other guy standing there, or the helmet
Yeah,
of the dude running away.
exactly. And all these elements compositionally that he has placed, they're well placed. It's just that kind of fine tuning of where they all are and how they read together um, could definitely be improved, and that will make better coherency.
Yep. And again, I say it's really good, almost recognizable style in it. He definitely doesn't need to worry about, do I have an own style or something.
Yeah,
It's going to be really apparent from his work. That's a good thing to have at this stage already, because if you improve the technical abilities, then people are really going to recognize your work easily just for having that unique style, basically.
yeah, yeah. It's all about cultivating it from now on, working on these technical aspects to improve uh, the style.
It's a good dynamic going on in the image as well, with the warlord running around and those things going off, and the men doing their thing.
Yeah.
Really catches the energy of the siege really well.
Hmm.
And I really dig those 60s sci-fi elements. I'm always a sucker for those.
Yeah, definitely. and just trying to unify the painting a little bit more. It's very separated, hard to find the strong shapes versus, or the firm edges versus lost edges. It's all a little bit broken up.
It does show really well, I think, that with you cleaning it up that way and bringing the elements forward, it also really complements the work that Holmes already did.
Oh yeah,
It's really a strong piece already. It's really just a matter of bringing it out the right way, like you're doing now.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's like I mentioned, the compositional elements are already there. It's just a matter of going over them and adjusting them so that they read correctly.
I think Holmes should definitely look into book cover or illustration design that way. I think,
Hmm. Yeah, he has a strength in composition. That's definitely a true statement. It's just a matter of fine tuning that skill set. And oh
I
yeah, go
think you
ahead.
could possibly also unify the sky a little bit more into a brighter color.
Yeah, it's very one-dimensional. Like it's really hard to understand depth of the sky.
And in that case, it's maybe better to make it a more even color so everything appears further away than to have these flat looking clouds shapes in the front, basically.
Mm. Yeah, it's just a matter of. I think it's a matter of putting a gradient in there. So it's just not pink all the way up, blue all the way up. No, so that there's actual depth. A lot of things will solve that way.
Yeah, it's a really cool image and remarkable to see what it does if some areas get a little bit of a touch up.
Mm.
It's really not, you're not changing design or making new stuff or anything. It's kind of like there was a lot of dust on the image and you're dusting it off right now. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So some good things there already, Holmes, but you need to polish it up a little bit more.
Yeah. I think with that being said, I think it's I can sit and fix his painting forever. Uh, but I think he gets the idea of what needs to be done to lift it to that next level.
Hmm. On to the next one, and good work again, Holmes. Looking forward to the next one you're coming up with.
Yeah, definitely. Seart,
Another cool battle scene.
definitely. Um, I like the emotion in the painting,
Hmm.
the sense of speed and engagement. Paya Tonto, it is underneath the stream. There's a Discord, and Discord is like a forum chat app, and there is a bi-weekly challenge where there's 2 weeks to work on a theme, and every second week, me and the passenger uh, go through them and talk about them and do paint overs and stuff. So this is the challenge number 4, uh, which is on the Discord. You can feel free to join.
If you're on the challenge page, make sure to click on top of the page. There is this little pinned message. Then you can scroll right up to the page and see the current challenge. And for the people already looking at it, the new challenge has already been posted, so you can get started with that one.
Fantastic, fantastic.
We're gonna take revenge on a werewolf this time.
Very cool.
On to Seart. Yeah, it's a really cool dynamic image and conveys this attack moment really well, I think.
Yeah.
I saw him work on it in the Hangouts and uploading the work in progress on the Discord. And I think originally it was the idea that the warlord or the king, so to say, was the guy on the left from the main character, the dude with the horse. But I then suggested that maybe bringing him, making that other guy on the right side, actually the leader and the king, could be a better idea. Because he's kind of on compositionally on the rule of thirds, fitting nicely in the image, but also because maybe the king would really send forward his strongest troops and be a little bit more in the back line himself. You know, the king wouldn't be the one trusting first, usually, you know, or you would have to have a really brave king. But, so that's why I suggested him try to make the warlord or the king basically the guy on the left side. I think that actually worked out really nice.
Yeah, it's a good change. It worked really well. I think if that would be the Lord, it wouldn't work at all.
Then you kind of have like two characters chasing forward, and they would kind of compete for attention. While now it's really clear that there is this central image, the central character basically, and in the back there is this Lord pushing him forward, like conquer that place for me. Sending his troop out in front of him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, cool idea this. You're making the mayhem go further behind enemy lines.
Yeah, exactly.
And even more dynamic and drama to the scene.
Yeah, I feel it's losing a little bit of impact. The ideas are there, but it doesn't. It can be pushed further. Like a part of my lecture that I usually do about character design is about 100%ing an idea. You know, like if you have something in motion, what is the things you can contribute to make it even more in motion? Or if someone is strong, you know, what are the things that you can add to make him feel or her feel even stronger? Like with Eric's about that black and white painting. That the small details like what directions are the knuckles pointing, um, how wide is his elbows, and things like that does impact the way you look at a painting. And in that technical aspect, you can up the attempt of describing the action, but you can also add spikes. You can just start designing things as well.
And you get into this crazy creative thinking while you think like, how can I make a boot more aggressive, or how can I make his armor be more evil or something? And
Yeah, exactly.
find the emotions, like maybe show that he's been in battles before, or have a very different element in it, maybe a flower from his love to show the reason why he's fighting or something.
Yeah, and exactly. It doesn't need to be concrete things either. It can be very suggestive and personal, what you think should be there. But the more you try to push the aspect, the more tools you figure out, and the more steps you can take to like 100% an idea. Like that being said, though, like Seart's challenge submission here is really cool. It has very good dynamics in it. And it does feel like war, you know.
And he doesn't shy away from something that a lot of people are afraid to even take on, and that's horses.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's quite a if you look at it, all the elements in there, it's quite a challenging scene to take on, basically. And
Mm,
he pulled that off really well, I think.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Commendations. Is that the word? Cred, credits given
Hmm.
for attempting. It's not an easy thing.
I'm not the strongest at anatomy, so I don't know if it's possible, but I'm thinking that maybe increasing the size of the upper body from the central figure could make him even more imposing. Maybe I got the impression that his belly feels a little bit too bulky, while his chest and shoulders could be a little bit more wider. Like he's
Yeah, I think
bursting forward a little bit.
it depends. I mean, it depends on where Seart want to take it. He obviously designed a quite slim-looking knight. You know, more medieval, actual medieval armor rather than a tank unit. As well, the character is running. So I just think the biggest issue is just a matter of how the shadow is on the stomach, rather than the actual contour. The contour is fine. It's just how the inner contour is described.
Hmm. Yeah, it's cool with these watching these paint overs and you know analyzing these images. You really start looking into them deeper and longer, and all these little elements start popping forward. You really get in deep into them, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, and just like Alms, this one has lots of story elements, but where this one fails a little bit, where Alms succeeds, is that wherever we land on each character, Alms have already defined most of it, and we can travel through the painting. And here in Search, for example, here's an important character which we don't see. Um, so in that sense, Alms was a bit more successful in the way of how he uses the composition. But Seart definitely has a complex composition that reads really well. We look through the painting and we go like, "Oh, I get it." There's no guessing what's happening. Like we understand it instantly.
And it's also a choice, of course, if you go for the more basic background fade away, less detail, less uh, um, contrast and all those things, or that you really, like we just showed and talked about, bring several elements forward.
Mm,
It's a style choice, basically, rendering choice.
yeah. Like I showed him an example on the Hangout earlier. I did. Uh, showed him screenshots from the movie Kingdom of Heaven. I think they managed the feel of war really well, and the cinematic aspect of it.
Hmm.
And one of the images I showed, let's see if I can find it again. Probably not. Of course, you don't find the same image twice. Uh,
That's what Google's for, giving you those one-off surprises.
yeah, but it was about more or less these horseback men sitting on horses, and how the the values were all very extremely. Oh, here's like in this one. I will zoom in a bit. Uh, like the values are horrible resolution. The values are all very equal, but the subtle differences and subtle breaks in silhouette makes us all look at this guy, uh, while we look at all the other characters secondary. We see the motion, we see that they're riding, but we land on him because of this glint of highlight versus him popping out of the silhouette. All the others silhouettes are masked by background objects or vertical lines, and he's the only one who's free. So in that instance, in Seart's, the values are quite even, and there's definitely room for like subtle push and pull of value of where to look, and where the like these anchor points can be of values where they blend together and where they pop out. So obviously here we could give the character the same treatment, like on that horse reference I showed you. So that this guy maybe can be a little bit darker, and the shape's very samey, but maybe there's a something more breaking his silhouette, so he's not he doesn't get so much attention. Maybe there's some smoke. Maybe we see some spears coming this way as well. And same applies for the knights here in the background. Maybe there's breaking the silhouette more, so that they are not so clean, so that we don't focus on all of them at once. So we
maybe even use some little foreground elements or around his foot with some rock jumping up to create a little bit more dynamic, and also some area of interest there where his foot lands. There's some little rocks jumping away, or maybe even closer to the screen there, a little bit blurred, so you get this really motion feeling of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd say overall, Seart did a really cool job. The motion is very tangible. You definitely feel he's running. It's there. You can't deny it.
Yeah, and it really involves me in the scene. I'm tempted to move aside to let them pass. You're really like lured into the image that way. I also like the blue color of it. Gives it a bit of a early morning feel that way.
Yeah, definitely. They're rushing in the fog. All right, that being said, I think Seart has gotten enough pointers to figure out how to take it further. Things that works, things that doesn't work so well, things to improve, to think about. I think that is done and done.
And another cool image, and like the other ones, looking forward to the next one. It's really cool to see everybody progressing and getting to know your styles and workflow a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So here we have Kuru's. OMG. So this is the champion then, obviously.
Sure looks like it.
Sure looks like it.
Really, really cool, yeah.
Yeah, I think at first glance, the silhouette and the palette works really well. Like we can, if we squint, we're starting to see the silhouette. It kind of flows quite well. The value design is there, could be stronger. Where it works the best is the torso and the dark straps versus the gold versus the white parts in the color. It's like big, medium, and small shapes. They're playing together really, really well. And
that high contrast again to that interest area.
Yeah, and the gloves at the elbow works really well as well. and the fact that there's a complex parts, calm parts. Let's make a new layer so I don't screw it up. So there's big calm part, smaller parts that becomes medium sized, larger sized, and then you have the smallest size in the gold, and then paired with a kind of medium-sized group of smaller information versus a large group versus medium going to small, and there's a really good rhythm flowing through when we look at the shape design of the silhouette. Has this really clear read. Where it doesn't work so well is on the other arm. The rhythm there is less balanced because of unfortunate events of blocking elements, and we don't see it in the same way. But that shouldn't stop the design from failing, because you have to design it from this aspect as well. So the challenges arises is like, how can you design elements seen from more of the front, how it flows together better. And usually what that occurs is that the rhythm is lost, the big, medium, and small, and value design is lost a bit, because you kind of flushed, because you're thinking of it only from this perspective and how it works, and it's hard to see it in 3D space. So just be more aware of that as you're designing, and you'll have a lot better success. That sounded like it was bad. It isn't bad. It's just it can be better. Now, where I think it fails is him rendering light. It becomes quite one-dimensional, and he's losing a lot of the impact of the value range by having everything go to white. And that's the worst thing you can do, especially when you're doing shiny materials, is that you really need to pay attention to how bright you go, and you need to keep that in until you really need it to kind of be punchy. Like one of my favorite quotes I ever heard, I mentioned it before, was from the art director at Massive Black. And he said the highlights should be like an orgasm. Like the longer you hold it in, the better it will be, like on release.
Good one to remember.
Yeah, so
easy to forget.
Yeah, so looking at Kuru's, a lot of his values goes up to white. Like there's really hard to make something shiny when everything is shiny. So by just pushing that back, we're already getting the gold is shiny aspect, right? And leather is dull, by just pushing back a bit. And then you can, of course, use color dodge or something like that to further enhance the shiny aspect, because we now have the range to go higher. One thing that I try to teach people is that there's nothing whiter than white or blacker than black. So you really need to pay attention to how bright it goes and how dark it goes. And you can make something feel really, really bright by staying in the mid-range without even using white. It's all about contextual contrast, like what values have you established, and are they balanced, or are they chosen correctly? You can easily make something shiny without even using white, as long as it has context to the other values.
I'm always tempted, a little bit like you did now, to bring the rest of it down a little bit and make it darker, so you can really carve out those elements as if it was light hitting the elements.
Mm.
I like how you warm it up with that orange. It also works really well. Makes me think that on the shadow spots you could even use a little bit more bluish, even on a very low opacity, to have a nice temperature shift, basically.
Yeah, yeah, or gray.
Hmm.
But overall, I'd say his design and painting is really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's one of those when you first see it, wow, I have to explore what all that kind of stuff is. Without, I find it too overpowering. Sometimes people throw a lot of details on there, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to look at that stuff. And I think here is a really good balance in that, like you said before, where it invites to explore, but the overall shapes are also really strong, and the function and everything as well.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, Kuru did thumbnails.
There
Um,
were three thumbnails we did
yeah,
earlier versions.
and that's one thing I teach at my class is big, medium, and small, and light, medium, and dark values um, working together. Uh, let's see if I can hack it.
One thing that always stayed with me when I saw some character portfolios being reviewed was that somebody mentioned that a lot of people draw the feet in the wrong way. And I
Mm,
think that Kuro did it the right way, where he showed the top of the feet and not
yeah.
just the side of the feet, basically.
Hmm.
It really grounds the character in a very good way.
Yeah. The principal idea is that here is almost the horizon line. Horizon line is here probably. So his feet should follow the perspective.
Hmm.
So anything underneath the horizon line, we should see the top of. In basic, you know, obviously if something is angled towards us, we don't see it. But if it's just standing cylinder uh, in next to him, we should see the top of the cylinder.
Hmm.
Same thing up here, we should see the bottom of the cylinder, following the perspective, you know, vanishing point.
Yep.
And just staying consistent that way makes the character more believable.
Yeah, it's something. Before that, I never even looked at that stuff. But after I heard it, I looked at many characters, and you'd be surprised how many people don't have that. Where the rest of the character is in good perspective and everything, but except for the feet, they are kind of like 2D, pointing outwards. Or
Mm, yeah, definitely. But I think on Kurus in this instance, he did quite well. I think the design becomes a little bit messy at places. I think the feet could be um, done in a way that we read them slightly stronger, maybe with some gold elements, just so that it's not one big shape with the smallest detail spread across it. It's losing a little bit of rhythm. Um, by just having some smaller elements, it will help us break up um, the flow of the shoes, and we will accept it in a better way. Just looking at the shapes.
I also like that kind of wing thing he has hanging in front of him. It
Mm,
could maybe be cool to make that a little bit transparent
mm,
by adding some of the background color on top of it. Kind of see through, where they
yeah,
even put some little red veins or something in there.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a really cool design. I would be like, if I had to take on a character like that, I would be overwhelmed by the rendering and all the details and everything.
Mm,
That's really well.
yeah. One thing I was gonna get to when it comes to value design, some elements in his painting originally feels a little bit that the value becomes very equal. Like we don't have the same rhythm. The strongest part, like I mentioned at the beginning, it was at the torso. The torso had the best rhythm established. Um, it's just, I think, you can slightly tweak the skin tone, like how bright it should be versus how dark the leather should be, and so on, to make it even stronger to read. The complicated part becomes at the lower body. It all kind of blends together and becomes too high contrast, too kind of contradicting. There's no real flow. Um, but those things are easy to fix, uh, to make them coherent. Just pushing back values and bringing some forward. That's not a lot of work to do.
I'm thinking that just as a suggestion, maybe for portfolio presentation, if Google would want to use this one, could also be a cool idea to just take out one of the elements, like that shoulder pad or one of the mega gloves he's wearing, and make a standalone design of that again, where you kind of describe in more detail the elements he's wearing, basically. That would be a nice presentation element, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and also the background is very dead in for the presentation purposes. By for example, just making it a little bit like a photo studio, portrait studio, just help with framing, just a little bit to kind of make it a little bit more sexier. Comes a long way selling a design. Not the design itself, but the presentation of the design, that he's standing somewhere, right? It makes it more believable in an odd way by just painting the background a little bit more, rather than a dead Photoshop background. And one little trick I like to use is paint like a halo of light around the shadow, so it feels like there's a spotlight coming down on him. Also kind of solidifies the character in place, that he's standing there. And
good one.
It's a small little trick that does a lot. And then when you have the value range, you can bloom things correctly. And the problem with Kurus from the beginning was that he just went too bright too fast. Like he explained that he had a dimmer on the monitor, so that could explain things. But looking at his original, it's just it's not a good enough excuse. He has still misused the value range, even though he had a dimmer on. But you see that he just gone too white. You can't go brighter than white, regardless. But small tweaks, that doesn't take too long. You can bring it back. All you need to do is just go in and paint it a little bit more coherently and patiently.
Actually, things you can easily do at the last part of the process. So,
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I did that now. Just small adjustments to make it more coherent. So that's completely doable. But the best thing is to be aware of it and not rely on post.
Kuru mentions in the chat that he struggles making backgrounds for his designs, but you don't always need to design a full background. You don't need to have trees or buildings or whatever kind of stuff there. Simple color can also convey a lot of emotions already, like or some round shapes can tell something about the character that it's more softer, or if you have aggressive, hard, edgy shapes behind it, it also tells a little bit. So you don't really need to specifically design an environment background like you would for an environment. But
Yeah,
there's quite a few elements you can use to show where a character is. Maybe you put some grass next to the feet, and you can see like, all right, he's not going to be in a desert environment, for example. Or
yeah,
you put a little water pool next to it with some raindrops in it, and you see like, all right, he's in a rainy environment all the time. And you use some dark blue in the background, saturated blue or something, and stuff like that. Very easy changes can really change the mood and the additional story elements for a character without really having to draw a full background, is basically what I'm trying to say.
yeah, absolutely. And a subtle thing like a drop shadow and just a brush stroke in the background does a lot, even though it's very simple. It doesn't need also all elaborate things. Just some nice brush marks in the right color. You know, could be simple like that. It could also be like a pedestal. 3D artists they place objects in the around the feet to suggest environment, like you said. Uh,
You could have cracks there with a little bit of lava glow in it, or you could have grass, or you could have sand or snow, perhaps. All those things indicate where the character comes from, or
exactly,
what his function is, basically.
exactly.
And presentation wise, just as a side note, it's always good to yeah, maybe have a secondary character also that conflicts him or something to bring
Yeah,
out his elements again.
if needed. It's not always needed, but sometimes you need for scale.
Hmm.
Like that guy up in the corner, he doesn't need to be there. Why I copied the silhouette out was just to show that there's a good rhythm of big to small, big, medium, and small shapes that reads well in his thumbnail shape language.
Cool idea with those arrows in the ground.
Yeah, so I think it's quite evident the changes and how to help Kuru bring it to the next step.
Hmm. So really well done, really cool design stuff.
Yeah, the design is really nice, really strong.
Think if you, like I suggested, would do like a little breakdown of one of the gloves or something.
Mm,
3D artists would love that kind of stuff, to
yeah,
work with.
I think this is the last one. Lribs. Whew, okay. Lrib went epic.
And by the way, we're not exaggerating that everybody made really cool works. It's when you put them all behind each other like that, it's like, damn, you guys been working hard again.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's so cool to see and nice to see effort being put into these challenges and everyone keep on trying to up their game,
Hmm.
which is beautiful.
And succeeding, because it's really, if people look back from the first episode to this fourth one already, you can already
Mm.
see the progress people are
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's not long time. It's two months.
making. Hmm.
It's really cool. All right, so Lribs. I think overall the sense of scale is good. The sense of impact, like where they are, is good. One thing that I think ruins the illusion slightly is the writer. Uh, he's quite big, and then you start to question. You start to question the scale of things because he is way larger than the soldiers. Whoa. Um,
is to be the warlord, so that would separate him a little bit from the soldiers. But
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be scale. It could be, you know, that he's the beast master.
mhm.
Yeah. So overall, I dig the idea of a rolling army coming in. A big beast that carries the ramrod, soldiers in the front and so on. Or maybe he needs to be a little bit scaled up. The biggest, I'd say, drawback is he's rendering shadows towards black and highlights towards white, even though he has a temperature in the white. The biggest issue I see is if we think about break down the character that he's rendering, like this beast, this big beast, right, walking. His shoulder coming forward and carrying the arm and the back. If the light comes from above, front and above, let me actually open it like this. Each part of the body, right? His shoulder. Why? Oh, his shoulder is lit just as much as the bicep, just as much as the lower arm, just as much as the hand, the knuckle, the head, the horn. If we look at the intensity of how white he goes, and then the thigh. That might be theoretically accurate, that they're at the same direction, most of the shapes, but it doesn't make a good painting. And I think best thing to do is think bigger. Think of like the shoulder part as one section, the helmet as a bigger section rather than each individual part of the helmet. And
It's
think,
kind of like what Holmes did as well, where you really render out the individual areas without placing them in the scene that way.
yeah, exactly. And it's a common problem when you want to define everything. You render it the other way around rather than thinking a big picture first. It's very easy to do, and it's a very easy thing to fix as long as you be mindful about thinking big to small. Or in another way, what might explain it is think about it like you're underwater and trying to see this character underwater. You won't see everything so individually perfectly lit. You're going to see that one part is closer to you, one is further away, and they can't be evenly lit across, you know, if that makes sense. Lrib started doing it correctly in the parts, but then he went equally dark. Every shadow goes to black, to the same depth as black, but the problem is that it can't, you know, it has depth, it has a 3D form, it has to pay attention to the fact that all shadows are not equally deep because they all point differently towards the light source.
A thing what always helps me with that to avoid that basically in environments is that I pick a lot from the skylight and I paint over the subject basically. That way you also remove a lot of the blacks and the whites and you kind of also integrate the figure much more into the scene.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And another indicator of how dark you should go in the shadows is how fast the form turns. If it's like a slow turning form, it can't really have that deep of a shadow. By that I mean like an edge of a belt, and the light shines, and this edge is really sharp, right? So it becomes a really dark. But if you have a shoulder that's curved and the light shines, the drop off is way slower, and the darkness has so much little space to be shown. So it's really few times that you can really go dark, like on Lrib's here on the shoulder, that black line. It's not needed. What's needed is a sharp edge and not a high contrast edge. Like to explain that, an easiest thing to do is if we blur that edge significantly. Right now we don't see the form turn that well because there's no separation. If we add a black line, our mind goes, oh, the form is turning, because we like to think in symbols, but that's incorrect. What's better is that if we just sharpen that edge and not changing the contrast, but by just sharpening it, we will start reading it as a change in form rather than change in contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a way more accurate way of thinking about light than in Lrib's case, when you like to render towards black. You have to be very aware of the value range in consideration to the light source and how you're describing the form. It's a very common mistake at the beginning when light is this the ungraspable thing that you're trying to figure out when it comes to form and kind of world placement of which part should interact with what part of the body.
It's also, I think, very clearly visible on the back of the character, where you see this black line, almost like a marker outline going over it.
Yeah.
Where you would expect more blue there, or at least no dark line
Yeah.
closing off the shape.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, that's the biggest problem with Lrib's main focal point, is that it just becomes high contrast noise. Oh no, another raid. It's okay. I won't have the banhammer.
It's a good one. It's EO visiting. I was thinking for environment when I saw this Lrib work on this earlier in the Hangout. I got this idea that it would be cool that to add some orange or pinks in the sky and change the time of day a little bit. And maybe those white clouds on the right side could have like light beams piercing through or something, and adding some pocket lights on the army, where you have some nice cool light spots going on that way.
Yeah, I mean, the time of day or the mood in his painting is quite chirpy. We're all happy. We're going to go on a picnic. Like, bring your ramrod.
Let's bring the big guy for the big beers.
Yeah, and then there's a drunk little guy on the back, just constantly screaming.
Ooh, let's party, dude.
Yeah. So obviously there's some mood missing. Some potential place to like add impact.
It's again kind of like with darkening the area and then having light areas pop out again later on.
It's all about planning ahead and thinking about what's the narrative of my painting? Like, what is the story, and how can I deliver it further? Like, how can I 100% the idea? Right? What I talked about earlier is that you have to really consider details and light and color and impact. I always try, in my mind, I always try to think of it like a movie, like it's a frame of a movie. And how would a movie director with his VFX team and actors and the whole crew, make that frame of a movie as appetizable as possible? If you think about Quentin Tarantino, it would probably be some crazy camera angle or very narrative driven, obviously, but he also has a really strong, specific way of shooting things that you can say, so this is a Quentin Tarantino movie. So it's the same thing you should start thinking about in the way you paint your paintings. Is that, okay, how do I want to communicate my idea, rather than by maximizing the idea.
Good practice for that is looking at the frames from the old Spielberg movies. He's a master at putting all those very basic story elements into play into an image in one frame.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that a lot of everyone has different opinions, and you have to find what speaks to you, and find your favorite artists and so on, in a way that you like the way they do things, and that speaks to you. Obviously, in that sense, there is something there that you can take away from it. Like, for the longest time, I quite enjoyed looking at El Greco, his paintings, like very abstract kind of take on the human body, with bizarre colors. But for me, there was something in there that I enjoyed, and I could definitely see it in my work at the time, how that influenced me and how I enjoyed looking at his paintings. That the way he treated everything was very native, in my own approach. And I think it's really important to kind of, when you're doing these paintings, to figure out, like, how would I do it better? Like, what changes would I like to see? If you don't know how to do it, that's fine, but you should always try to think, if this would be a movie screenshot or a game screenshot, what's missing to make it that much cooler? Another thing, when it comes to like designing characters at work, I told a guy once, we did a lineup of designs, and I said, which one would you like to play as? Like, which one would be your main character? And he kind of said, well, this one. And sadly, it was the reference, which he had to try to design something from. And I said, well, you have to start thinking about pose, attitude, colors, like up it more, make it like a main character. And that's what you should try to think about in your paintings. Like, what colors do I want? Do I want it to be sad? Do I want it to be cool? Is it a matrix moment? Is it,
Yeah, that's why these short 2 weekly challenges are also good, because you rather have to do those things rather quickly, basically, and that kind of forces you to think ahead of all those steps if you really want to accomplish a finished image within that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even go into these minute details about these decisions, like how veiny should this monster be? Should he be like a steroid monster, just veins popping on top of veins? Or should he be hairy? Should he look smelly? All these things impact the viewer, and you should, as a creator, put that extra effort in and think about these things, because each decisions you do make impacts the viewer, rather than if you just ignore them and act on feeling. That is the same thing that most viewers will take out of it, is that, well, you maybe don't know what you want to say, and it's a very reactionary painting, that you just go, oh, I guess he felt like this day. So the more conscious you are, and more deliberate in your decisions, that I think ideally that will result in a stronger painting.
Hmm.
That was a little bit of a ramble.
And I think that also, like in the previous example, with just minor changes to the background, you could indicate all kinds of different environments. Like you could add some sand in the foreground, and then it would be more like a desert scene. But again, you could add some snow and maybe some distant snow on the mountain tops to make it more of an Arctic scene. And you really don't need to make complex environment changes to indicate a scene or a location.
Yeah.
You could make some orange cracks in the floor, indicating some lava again, making it a volcanic environment, or it's all those little things that can really help. Or maybe you see a forest in the background and there's some leaves still falling off from the character, so you see that they from out of the forest they come out into the plains or something. It's quite a few simple things you can do to tell a story in the environment that way.
Yeah.
Just adding that because some people mentioned they had problems with adding background, but it really doesn't have to be well designed or super cool elements. It can be really subtle with using those simple tricks, basically.
Mm.
Really like how that's coming together now. The darker sky really enhanced the mood a lot, I think.
Yeah. And I'm making an overlay layer, to just kind of make the the brush marks a little bit more complex, very subtly affecting, so it just feels more worked on.
Ah, that's how you guys do that.
Yeah, like softly layering.
Constantly looking at why do those weird brushstrokes come from? How do they get that texture like that?
Hmm.
Just put a layer on top of that and create that texture.
Yeah, simple, really.
It's you start thinking in advance like, wow, he's been over that like with all those kind of layers and all those times, and that resulted in that awesome brush.
What's
It's
that?
like
What's that magic brush?
just throw a layer on top of there. Pretend you used all the brushes in the brush box.
I guess that's the changes.
Yep, looking good. Came together really nicely that way with the colors. And again, not much changes to the design or
Yeah.
those things. Really cool design. And fun fact, he posted that this design already, and then a couple of days later, the Lord of the Rings trailer came out where they're storming a big castle as well. The
Mm.
new game that is coming, and they also had a big creature carrying a big ram. So,
Great minds think alike.
yep, he's definitely onto something. Some art director really agreed with that idea.
Yeah. Lrib, you need credits for that movie or game, rather.
Yep. You never know. Maybe they made that trailer and they finished it in 2 days. They were like, hey, we need
Mm,
that guy in there.
quick, quick, quick. Some Swedish guy came up with a really cool idea. Why aren't you moving?
Yep. Yeah, it's been really cool again seeing all the challenges and everybody's work and some really good overpaints, really informative, good takeaways.
Fantastic.
And of course, the new challenge has been posted already, so everybody who wants to get busy can start to get busy right away. You can find it on the Discord with the link below. And then there is a separate link for the challenge where people can post their work in progress and their final images. And if you click on the pinned image on top of the page, you can see the most current challenge with all the information about it.
Mm, indeed.
Looking forward to what everybody comes up with. And,
Yeah.
seeing the new entries.
Definitely. Right, so are we doing some hangout? Are people still alive? Are they still sober enough to be able to do a hangout? Or maybe should I do Lone Soldier Rambo the stream for maybe one more half an hour and then call it a day?
It's up to you.
I haven't set up the Google Hangouts for sharing. I kind of figured that out at the beginning of the stream that I haven't set that up.
The screen sharing for everybody in the Hangout. So you
Yeah,
can,
exactly.
yeah, that's possible. I've seen it before. But I also
It is possible, but I haven't fixed it on my end, so I wouldn't know how to do it, and maybe no one is interested in seeing me sitting and fiddling with settings.
we're currently a little bit Google Hangout challenged.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just now Rambo the stream, and then next time we set up so that I troubleshoot it in advance, so that it's just everyone can join and have it working rather than me sitting and trying to figure it out and cursing.
Sounds like a plan. And then we can have more people on board.
Uh,
Provide direct feedback. It's good to hear back from the people making the art, of course.
yeah, but that being said, I mean, voice would work if I would connect uh, to the Discord Google Hangout. We could still talk, but my own screen would we be the only one showing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm have to be heading off anyways. So
right, so maybe do a Google Hangout next time.
yep,
Might as well.
we'll announce it in advance, and people can clear that road with a couple of beers in advance.
Mm, yeah, exactly. So for this Kuru, in this instance, it's just a normal hard brush, but I used this square brush. If you go look at my brushes, it's called Sketcher. Well, Sketcher 80 on the Discord. There's the brush. It has this really, well, really nice texture to it, but works really well with doing lines, and it has like a dirtiness to it. Hey, Shinsakuto. Yeah, this is my sketch. Beforehand, I've been doing paintovers of other people. And by the way, uh, so far it's just been paintovers on the stream. And now I thought I'd do some sketching and see where that leads. So I've been wanting to do some sci-fi for quite some time. I started doing this ArtStation challenge. I did lots of designs for it, but in the long run, it's something that I won't have time to finish, and I don't want to rush it. So I'm just gonna play around with sci-fi for a bit and go back to the normal 30-minute warm-up schedule of random topics and having you guys suggest it, and I just draw something. That being said, well, while you guys are here, I will show you a very wonderful person of the community did a new intro to the 30-minute warm-up.
Cool.
And I will switch to it, and when it ends, I will switch back to it. So here we go. Oh yeah. The user chose not to be credited for the work, so I don't know if the person wants me to say the name who did it. But there was one of you. One of you did it.
Guys who have been following the morning warm-ups know who it should be. And
Yeah.
really good work. Looks awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool intro. Like that's a good like 10-15 second clip. That's not too intrusive and not too annoying in the long run. I think it's a really strong.
And it makes you want to rewatch it, like what's happening on this screen and what's happening on
Yeah,
this.
yeah. And I told the person like you should put your name in there, and the person was like, nah, I don't want to have more requests. So fair enough.
Busy people, creative people, good stuff.
Yeah, I'm super appreciative of it though. That's really cool. Shinsakuto. I do a very mixed styles. I work for a lot of different clients that want different things. So doing line art is just one of many. I don't mind doing it. I also don't mind painting. So it's a little bit of everything. I just love, in general, being creative. That's what I find the most joy in. And you're new, by the way, so thanks for joining.
All that creative stuff makes me want to get creative as well.
Yeah, I want to paint some now as well, but also I do enjoy doing sci-fi line art. So I don't know. I wanted to just go paint some monsters crashing a gate. It was really cool to see all the entries of the challenge. Super happy about it.
I am curious how the character artist will take on this month's challenge.
That's going to be
interesting.
Yeah. I can explain to you, Shinsakuto, that every workday morning I stream for 30 minutes. And at the beginning of the stream, I ask people for a topic. So when I have 6 topics, I roll the dice, and then the countdown starts. So it's a 30-minute stream. So when the countdown starts, I have 30 minutes to draw something from the topic without reference, without preparation. So I just sit down and draw. And I usually talk some shit with you guys and girls while doing it. We have usually a topic of the day. It usually emerges after first couple of minutes, and then I start to monologue, and yeah, it's good stuff. It's fun. I love being challenged by all the people in the chat and having to draw something on the spot. It's a good challenge. I think the only time I had to look at reference was when I had to draw Snow White. I had no memory of what Snow White looked like. It was a good one. And I struggled with Navy SEAL seal that I remember. I didn't really remember what a seal looked like. But a lot of other ones were good.
It's fun to hear those topics back. It's like you got all those episodes stored in your memory somehow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do enjoy it. There's a really big challenge of trying, without looking something up. The Google heroin fix is so deep in the behavior. Like you want to Google it, you want to know, and you want to have reference, but the challenge is to do it without.
I am actually the opposite, the other way around. I should use way more references.
Mm.
I'm always stubborn and then end up burning myself halfway through.
Yeah. But that's great, Shinsakuto. You're more than welcome. The schedule is every day, 9:10 UK time. And if anyone sees this on YouTube, because I have a YouTube archive that I upload daily, please feel free to like, subscribe, all these classic comments you have to say if you have a YouTube channel. My idea is to build this into some sort of community thing. So any statistics I can show to partners where I can get giveaways and things like that, it really helps to have statistics to show X amount of likes, X amount of subscribers, etc. And that being said, there's also a donation button that goes towards the same goal of upping the community, upping the stream, all these things. So if you want to do that, that's awesome. If not, that's awesome. It's not a requirement. But do please join the Discord community. It's a cool bunch of people doing really cool stuff daily. We hang out there and talk shit and drink coffee. It's good stuff.
If you want to see many cool images being made, also check out the YouTube archive where all the episodes are uploaded.
Indeed. My pleasure, Eric, and thanks for being part of the challenge. Good night. Sleep tight. And look at this. What is this? This is what I have to deal with every day. This hand grenade of a haircut. This is madness. Nothing I can do about it.
Well, there's things you can do about it.
True.
Go full bold or something. Style change.
That's true.
Shock the audience a little bit.
Yeah, just become American History X all of a sudden.
Spiderweb tattoo on the
Yeah. Why not? It's my secret passion. I want to be a gang member. Just full on face tattoo, skull face tattoo, and like 187 and teardrops and everything. That's what you got to do.
As a character designer, yeah, you got to be original, right?
Yeah. I designed actually for this game, Army of Two. Lots of gang members. Super fun to do. This art director, he came up with the idea of having numeric equivalents to words or letters. So you could like give the characters tattoos with letters or numbers, and it would be the same meaning. Like gang tattoos. Gang have always like 187 is murder, death, kill, right? In the police
codes, radio codes.
Yeah, and they also have for street name and gang names and all these things. And it was quite interesting to dive into and design tattoos based on those principles. It was quite an experience.
We actually learn a little bit from all this concept design work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, come on, mate. Ah, rotate canvas. Much better. For the people who draw a lot with line art, they always get cramp in their hands and get carpal syndrome. I have never had that problem. One of the reasons being I do now and then this kind of martial arts inspired lower arm training that really softens up everything and strengthens everything so that your lower arm becomes quite strong and doesn't break that easily. The basic principle is a string and something heavy and a stick. And you hang this very heavy thing on the stick in the string, and you roll the string up so the weight goes all the way up to the stick. Then you roll it down, and then you flip it, so you do under grip and roll it up, and then roll it down, and you do that up and down until your arms are burning. And then you stretch all the fingers out, and then you make a fist. You stretch all the fingers out, like to the point where you can't make them longer, and then you make a fist. And you do that until your fingers and lower arms burn. And if you do that now and then, you'll get really, really strong and flexible muscles in your lower arms and fingers. And you won't have issues with carpal tunnel and things like that.
I'm finding with hand therapy now that using a little bit of clay in a plastic bag and squeezing that all the time is also really good to practice all the muscles in the hands, basically.
Yeah, it's the same principle. It's the same, like extending and squashing the tendons and muscles.
And it goes fast because my one hand is actually getting more exercise than the other hand. You can literally see a difference now.
Yeah, you need to tell the people that are new that you were in a car crash.
Yeah. I indeed had an accident with my hand, and I've been going to the hospital for about 4 months now with hand therapy. So unwillingly, I'm learning a lot about the mechanics of the hand and how to cure it and how to make it stronger. But it's actually really interesting, all the exercises and techniques they have to make your hand strong again. But it's also good exercises to, just keep it strong when it's not injured.
Mm.
Squeezing things and pulling things. It's really a good exercise. Wrist exercises, making your just making movement forward with your wrist and backwards so that you really, movements that you don't do a lot. Make sure that you exercise those.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, the whole story of your accident and your recovery and all these things is crazy.
Yeah, it's I literally need to have every single element of my hand. It's kind of like I need to turn it on. It was turned off, and now I need to exercise to turn every single element in the hand on again. Yeah, it's been quite a long journey so far, but I'm still progressing, and it's also makes you really appreciative of all the things you can do with your hands. I never
Mm.
thought about that before, and every time you can do more, you're like, hey, I've got another area of things I can do again now. So
Mm.
good
Yeah,
takeaway from that for everybody would be is like really, really value your health and be careful with your physical condition because it's really important that things work really well.
yeah. And another one of those Lrib, yeah. Your one hand is stronger than the other. It's a typical single man problem.
Well, you know, I like to say I'm two-handed. You know.
Too much information. Next topic. Uh, yeah, I was one of the people on my Facebook. This woman, she was in a car crash as well, I think, and she had some sort of whiplash injury of sorts, and she went to the hospital after the accident, and they were like, "No, it's okay. Like we took some scans, you can go home." And she was like, "Are you sure?" They were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, go home." And all of a sudden, she got like a call from a doctor, like from the emergency ward. Like, how can you have been allowed to go home? You have to come directly back to the hospital. Like this doctor that sent you home, like did malpractice. Like you have to come home, come to the hospital so we can make sure you don't die in the next like 2 hours. Like, holy
Yeah,
hell.
I can imagine. You know, there's two ways you can look at that. There is you can be like really scared, like holy shit, you know, they miss things in the hospital. You know,
Hmm.
and it's happened to us as well. I mean, I had a broken shoulder they didn't catch in the first 2 weeks, and my mother had a broken foot. They let her walk around in the hospital, and they didn't notice that before. So yeah, those things really happen. But at the
Yeah,
same time, you also have to keep in mind that when you're brought into a hospital after an accident, uh, there is so much stress, panic, and many people working at the same time that yeah, things get overlooked. So
yeah.
the
But the
person
most
should,
important thing, he didn't die. That's
yeah,
like
yeah,
step one.
if all is well, they take care of that. You know, they prioritize those things. But yeah, they can easily overlook things. So
Yeah.
it's really important to be vocal about things if something ever happens to you.
Mm. Mm. Oh yeah, definitely. And this woman, she had changed many doctors, and like it sounded like she didn't have a good hospital experience at all. But the good thing in the end, she had lots of MRIs and scans and medicines and so on. It seems to be moving in the right direction now. But at the accident, she was like, "Holy shit! I could have like literally died from a neck injury. Like they didn't spot it, and the
Yeah, it's
doctor said, just go
scary
home."
stuff. And
Mm.
mistakes are easily made, you know, like not everybody knows what to do in certain situations. Like right after we had the accident, somebody apparently had helped my mother out of the car into his or her car, you know, just to calm down or something. But
Mm.
that's, of course, one of the most dangerous things you can do. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
you should never move a person in a situation like that. But
yeah, exactly.
people, unfortunately, aren't educated in that kind of stuff. And
Mm.
you can't
Yes.
blame him. And yeah, sometimes things go wrong. You just
Nice.
have to be really lucky if they don't.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's crazy. Scary here in the chat says he's been in 5 car crashes.
Wow. Yeah.
That's pretty. That's
Not
a
not
bit
to
of.
make too much of a joke about it, but it almost sounds like a hobby. You know, like
Yeah,
get a different
exactly.
hobby basically.
Yeah, maybe get a new pastime. What's it called? Pastime hobby? No, pastime experience? No. What's the saying? Pastime, whatever. Doesn't matter.
I don't know. But yeah, 5 car crashes. That's not
Uh,
fun.
That's pretty crazy. Either not the best driver or some seriously bad luck.
Or a good angel on his shoulders.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I don't like to drive. Uh, I don't like the idea of sitting in this metal meatball that just can smash into things and kill things instantly.
It's a very unnatural thing, you know, to
Yeah,
be zooming over the highway with 120 miles per hour in a little box indeed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And when you hit something that's solid, your car's gonna be like butter, just collapse. Ugh.
Yep. Yeah, it's better to be in a car crash with moving objects like a car, I believe, than solid objects like a tree. They really don't give away.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
see If you see people who are in accidents like that, it's usually a lot more bad at their end.
mm, yeah, definitely. And Lrib, no, there's no hangout today. I think there was not enough interest in drunk people. So
I think he means maybe the hangout here and the additional stream with
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Um, I need to fix the setup so that we can screen share on the stream. I haven't done that yet, and that will be for the next stream. Um, not today.
reading the chat. Ex-Gary has been passenger all that time. And then you need to
Wow.
find friends with either a driver's license or
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy bad luck.
Mhm.
And by the way, I'm not drinking beer on stream. I am drinking something from a kid's cup.
I'm full on orange juice, so
Mm-hmm.
highly responsible here.
Definitely.
Looks like some Fallout character or something.
Yeah, something like that. Just playing around with sci-fi and line art for the sake of why not? I'm just kind of giving the line art first pass over the sketch, and then I'm gonna switch off and then start kind of elaborating on the line art. But I just want everything down first. But I doubt I will have energy to do it tonight. I think the fun might reaching its end at some point soon. These feedbacks take so long. I mean, we did 2 hours worth of feedback, I think.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
time
yeah.
flies.
It's a lot of effort put into the feedback. It's no 5-minute feedback here. It's some proper love for the community.
Yes. Yeah, and I think some good overall takeaways as well. I noticed myself looking things back that there's always like a general theme somehow that sneaks into the reviews. So
Yeah,
that's always a good overall theme takeaway.
yeah, yeah. And I find it interesting also looking back at statistics on YouTube for these extra streams. These extra streams are always longer and have a higher view count, which is interesting to see.
I think a lot of people watch YouTube videos for the background noise. So if you have a long video, that's they don't need to skip, they don't need to
Mm,
find other files. It's always a good thing.
mm. Shout out to the YouTube crowd.
Yes, keep on listening. We'll keep on
Yeah,
talking.
I hear you. I hear you. I got you. I got you. No, but I got some plans for YouTube, like uploading smaller like thoughts, recorded thoughts in a sense of kind of concept art related rambles, like 1-2 minute rambles. I think it will be a cool addition to the normal uh, upload stuff.
Always good to hear professionals ramble.
Mm. Yeah, and I like I mentioned on the Google Hangout today, and I got news about a client, a new client that's one of those that is on the hit list, like that you would love to work with. Uh, one of those, big names that you want.
On that hit list, I was like, on the hit list? That's
Yeah,
a
No,
dangerous man to be around.
the hit list of clients like that you gotta work with, or I have another hit list for people I want to get better at. Then, so I got two hit lists.
Uh-huh.
So the names on those lists always shift and move. So I'm always happy when there's an update to the list. Like I am better than artist X. Okay, that person is dead. Add a new name.
I sense a little bit of a competitive nature there.
Oh yeah, of course you gotta have that goal. You know that number one on the hit list is that like ridiculous. Like I will never reach this goal. And then you have number 10, of which like a little bit like cannon fodder, but one step up. That at least will feel good killing off. So you get
Which you put in for your own confidence.
yeah, exactly. A little bit like a sacrificial lamb, a little bit, But it's important to have those kind of little carrots that you can attain.
For me, that's just about every portfolio I see. I go. I still remember, like, when I went to the industry workshops for the first time, I was expecting to see the professionals and the teachers showing their work and really being impressed by that, and kind of going there confidently, like, oh, I've been working hard and I made some pieces and I'm going to show that, and let's see what happens.
Mm.
And then I saw like my fellow peers and all the other people attending, and everybody brought their own portfolio as well. And I started looking at those portfolios, and I was like, "Damn, what the hell am I doing here, man?" Like, so many people with awesome portfolios and much better ideas and much better rendering and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
it's really cool.
Yeah, it's disheartening at the same time as it's inspirational. Like, oh, holy fuck, why are you so good?
And why are there so many that are so good?
Yeah, yeah.
And why do they always do that one thing that I want to learn much better than me?
Hmm.
They suck at all the other things, but the one thing I want to learn, they are so much better than me. It's start projecting and
Yeah, but the funniest thing is like when I go to workshops and so on and talk and then do portfolio reviews and you always have a crowd hanging around and listening in, and you can literally hear the brains like crunching, like
mm,
and they're thinking, and like you can it's an audible thing almost, like you can see heart being destroyed, uh, egos being trampled on, master plans being conjured. It's hilarious.
but it's really cool. It's one of the things I enjoy most from going to the workshops when people are just standing around somewhere and then somebody's getting a portfolio review. I just
Mm,
pop my head in and listen along because you learn so many things also from looking at other people's artworks. Because
yeah.
you get your own first impression of it and maybe you're really impressed by it, and then somebody else really takes it apart and you're like, oh right, I see it now. Or you're looking at something and you think like, yeah, not such a cool image, but somebody starts picking out the good elements and you go like, damn, that's really smart, or those kind of
Mm,
things. There's really a takeaway from almost every portfolio review you can witness, basically.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So Shin Sakuto asks, which is my number one. I can't name the number one on my hit list.
The
I,
hit
I
list is the number one rule about the hit list is that nobody talks about the hit list.
exactly, exactly. It's for me to know and for the person to know when it happens. Like when I slay them artistically. But number one is so hard to get. But I'm working on it. I have my master plan of getting there.
I would gladly share mine, but I honestly don't have one. I view that a little bit differently, I think.
Mm.
I look more at one day at ArtStation and the overall work there, and kind of compare myself to that much more than individual artist or stuff like
Mm.
that. I'm more random that way. It's kind of the same with music as well. I don't really have favorite music, but kind of get inspired or listen to what I feel like at the moment, basically.
Yeah. But I can tell you a top 10 artist are two of them for sure. That is Marko Djurdjevic and Piotr Jablowski, or whatever his name is. The guy that does a lot of paintings for Dishonored and so on.
Ah, yeah, that one. Yeah, that's awesome. Amazing
Yeah.
guy.
His edge control is just like, motherfucker. Like, you sit there and go like, how does this even? Ah, you get just frustrated. You want to flip your table, and then but you don't. You look a little bit closer at his painting and go like, how does he actually? You try to reverse engineer it. You try to decipher it, but you can't, and you get angry, and then you
Yeah,
go,
I've been attacked quite a few times in this honor too, looking at those paintings because
mhm.
that's actually really cool. They put them like paintings on the wall throughout the entire game. You can really admire all the concept art that way.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm on someone's hit list. Oh
Dun, 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 dun.
no. Oh no.
Good hit list to be on.
Hmm.
Yeah, there. Thomas mentions one of my favorite artists. If I would have to mention favorite artist,
Yeah, his work is pretty good.
Simon Stalenhag, or how is it pronounced?
Stolen Hog.
Stalenhag. Okay, yeah, that's another level. Really awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Suhail. Welcome. Welcome back to the fold. No, I'm feeling a bit sluggish, tired, a bit beer in my belly.
Time
Uh,
for some Netflix movies and relaxing.
I think so. Time for some Netflixing and non-chilling behavior with my wife because she's already sleeping. So it's just me, one more beer, and Netflix, I think, is on the topic.
Yeah, probably gonna play some Overwatch here. See if
Hmm.
I can kill some monkeys.
Yeah, that's one game I want to work with. I want to have one design in there at some point. That's like a secondary goal.
Talk about an amazing character lineup.
Yeah, some really good designs in
Yep. Okie dokie.
there.
Well,
All right.
then I'd say we're gonna call it a night.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming, for hanging out. Thanks everyone for doing the challenge. Uh, Someone is shitting on my hit list. Yeah, exactly, dear Kusha. It's all about your personal favorites and people that you deem better than you. And for me, I just focus on them in this way of self-improvement. Like how much closer do I get to my number one, or how much closer do I get to my number five? And when I do feel like I'm better than someone on that list, I feel happy and full of achievement that I've actually progressed enough that I have at least am at par with one of what was idols, you know, so that I feel like okay, I can rub shoulders with this person without feeling less artistically, you know. So that's more or less the motivator. But it's
Goals
not
to
like,
strive for.
yeah, exactly. It's not like I need to shit on anyone or destroy them in that sense. It's not a negative thing. It's just like a motivator for me to want to be improving to the point where I feel like I can do equally quality work. So it's just like a carrot, like for the stupid donkey I am. having that carrot in front of me, like, oh, look at that. I need to improve. That being said, the stream is over.
Catch you guys next time. Arrivederci.
Thanks everyone for coming. Have a fantastic evening, morning, wherever you are. See you Monday morning at 9 a.m. UK time. And here comes the outro.
Doot.